What's up, guys? Today I want to go over how I improved the front end of my app to get it deployment ready using ChatGPT and also Cursor. This is the outline of the steps that I took. I actually tried to film it live a moment ago. However, I accidentally recorded the wrong monitor instead of the monitor that actually showed my IDE. So I'm just going to go over how I did it. So this is the app I was trying to improve. And the first bit I wanted to tackle, or the first section I wanted to tackle was this top bit over here. Because as you can see, it doesn't look as nice as it could. So I took a screenshot of all of this, just this top bit, and then I gave it to ChatGPT, which we can see here. So the screenshot I passed to ChatGPT, but I also had to provide some context on what the button was about and its current functionality, why it's important, etc. So that's the first bit of context I provided it. And I also told it about the different type of buttons, how there are different type of buttons amongst this big chunk of buttons here. And I also talked about some disadvantages, in my opinion. Like I told ChatGPT how they're cluttered, they're not grouped. I also said on the left of the Match Diacritics button, there are buttons that let us toggle the view. However, it's a bit out of place. Then I requested, please help me analyze the screenshot, plus the comments that I provided. I need an improvement plan, and I also need suggestions on how to test the refactor, because I don't want the refactors to break any existing functionality. And in the end, I said I want a prompt, so I will provide it to Cursor, the Cursor IDE, to make my changes safely. When it's refactoring the code base, there's always a risk that it can break something that was previously working, and I'm a bit more insecure about that happening when it's the AI agent doing it, because it can touch all the different files and it can sometimes have a bit of unexpected side effects. So I want to test it properly. I want the changes to be tested so that I can be reassured that my app is already functioning as it is, because I really am only going for a cosmetic change, a UI change at the moment. So it provided an interesting response. Notably, it has a few suggestions. So put the view mode icons to the right of the top bar, and then you could have a bit of a hierarchy with the search options as toggles. Then you have the scope, then you got filters, so it separates the buttons by function, and yeah, it's even got a simple target layout, and it's talking about how to collapse the tags further, right? So you've got all the buttons in the different categories, one of the categories being filters, and within the filters, perhaps we want to collapse it even further. Now, it did have a suggestion to normalize the button semantics, so make them look a bit different so the brain instantly sorts them, and it had some comments about the 100 out of 100 plus results warning that's at the top here. It talked about renaming it, but I was a bit suspicious about this anyway, and it gives us a plan to refactor, and it gives us a few different testing strategies, which is quite interesting. I think in the end, the one I wanted to go with was we'll just use some Playwright end-to-end tests, but keeping it very, very simple. So what I ended up capturing the current payload that's sent to the back end based on various inputs, with the variation in inputs pretty much being different buttons or combinations of buttons being clicked. So I would capture the snapshot of whatever was sent to the back end for different scenarios where we'd be clicking on different buttons, and then we just need to make sure that after we refactor, when we click the same buttons, it's the same payload being sent to the back end, and I think that's good enough. And of course, that should be automated. So we got Playwright to click on the different buttons, and at the same time capture the snapshot, and that snapshot will be used to compare against the snapshots with post refactor, right? And yeah, it did give me a cursor prompt just like that, and I iterated with it one time where I said it sounds pretty good in general, but well, I did say grouping those filters, but I think it already talked about that. But the first time I looked at it, I thought it missed it. So that's okay. I don't think how it suggested renaming the buttons made a lot of sense. And yep, cool. Yep, just gave it some feedback pretty much. And then it gave me another cursor prompt, which I then read, but it didn't include those details that I really liked from the original answer that wasn't necessarily included in the prompt. So I pretty much went all the way back up to the top to its first reply and copied some of these details here, which I thought were very good. And I told it, did the latest prompt include blah, 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 right? And it said not explicitly no. So it gave me the final prompt. What I did then, so I copied the prompt in, I took a screenshot. This was the screen. I put the screenshot into the cursor agent, and I also selected the element with cursor's browser functionality just to give it more context and just to guide it a bit, just to know that, just to make explicit the code that I'm referring to. And yeah, I just let it go. And I actually took an hour break and I came back. I'm not exactly sure how long everything took. I wish I could tell, but it must have been minutes. It doesn't actually say here. However, sometimes it does. Sometimes it does say. Anyway, when I came back, the UI had changed, so which is pretty cool. It's got two of these. It's got match diacritics and forward match as toggles, which I think is pretty interesting, right? And we've got favorites as well. I don't have any favorites, which is why it doesn't show anything, but I think that's really cool. It's got this new feature where it shows us the filters that are being applied, which is mad. I'm calling these as filters, and the actual filters, we've got a toggle for that to be able to see the filters, and yeah, we can click them that way. Now, I still don't think this is ideal because there's too much potential for this to get too big, and then we keep pushing the results further and further down the screen. Rather, I think it would be good to, instead of having these stacked on top of each other, they go left to right. They go horizontally, just like you do when you're in LinkedIn, and they've got these filters at the top. I think that's pretty cool. So I might actually copy and paste, get a screenshot of this, copy and paste it into Cursor, and see if it can do that for us. I might do that now actually. So I actually might paste this into ChatGPT rather, and then I want the filters to actually go across the page instead of down, like the screenshot here. Can you give me a prompt just for this? To be clear, I just want to go across the page I don't want to nothing more from this screenshot. Anything else from this screenshot actually? Show 13 results. Salary. I think it's pretty cool.